There's a big update in one of Justin Baldoni's legal battles.
Stop the discovery. New York Times granted win in Blake Lively versus Justin Baldoni clash as dismissal pondered by judge.
War is rarely won quickly and without some bumps along the way.
Like this case is just boom, 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 boom. But we have a ruling on the motion to stay discovery against the New York Times.
The New York Times operating as a journalist or a co-conspirator with Blake Lively.
Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds are caught in a shocking legal storm as Justin Baldoni's $400 million lawsuit takes an unexpected twist. With the New York Times dodging discovery, Baldon's case stands on shaky ground. But is this just the beginning? Allegations, smear campaigns, and hidden industry secrets fuel this explosive courtroom battle, shaking Hollywood to its core. Who's winning, who's losing, and who's hiding the truth? Buckle up. This high-stakes showdown is only getting started.
So I just want to point out, Stuart, that in most cases, you don't have filings and rulings like this often. Like this case is just boom, 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 boom. But we have a ruling on the motion to stay discovery against the New York Times, not a ruling on the motion to dismiss. So that's an important distinction. This is only a ruling on the motion to stay discovery against the New York Times.
Not against the New York Times.
Oh, yeah, in favor of the New York Times. Right. Yeah, that's true.
All right.
So let's take a look at what they decided. And so really what the court's doing here is it's saying, okay, we're going to put a stop to discovery. We're just going to shut it down for right now, as opposed any discovery going to the New York Times. And you'll see right here that the New York Times Company, pursuant to Federal Rule of Civil Procedure 26C for a stay of discovery as it relates to the New York Times, pending a decision on its motion to dismiss, that motion is granted. So the parties, the plaintiffs, cannot send discovery or do discovery against the New York Times temporarily while the motion to dismiss is being decided.
The legal battle between Justin Baldoni, Blake Lively, and the New York Times has taken a dramatic turn. In a shocking decision, a U.S. district judge granted the newspaper's motion to stay discovery, while the court reviews its motion to dismiss Baldoni's massive $400 million defamation lawsuit. This move could be a major setback for Baldoni, delaying any evidence collection from the publication and potentially weakening his case as the legal fight intensifies.
The filing, which requests that the judge temporarily halt parties from having to exchange information or documents, was granted as United States District Judge Louis J. Lyman reviews the outlet's February 28th motion of dismissal. He notes in the most recent document that the New York Times, which is included in the lawsuit for its December reporting on Blake's Civil Rights Department complaint, presents, quote, substantial grounds and a strong showing that its motion to dismiss is likely to succeed on the merits. Well, Justin's team argues that obtaining discovery against the New York Times will not be voluminous and burdensome because it will cover a relatively narrow time frame. Judge Lyman explains that the burden of discovery is not measured only by the number of pages. He emphasizes it is also determined by the complexity of the issue that discovery will present and the sensitivity of the documents that will be requested. The judge adds that if the court denies the newspaper's motion, Justin's team, who is also suing the New York Times in a separate $250 million defamation lawsuit, can request the extent of discovery they are seeking.
Justin Baldoni's lawsuit alleges that the New York Times conspired with Blake Lively to defame him after her explosive sexual harassment claims. However, the Times argues it was standard journalism. The court's latest decision suggests the newspaper's dismissal argument is strong, increasing the chances that it will escape unscathed, leaving Baldoni's $400 million defamation case on uncertain ground.
And so the judge, it's not necessarily that the judge is saying that it's going to be, the New York Times is going to be successful on one particular argument. They're just saying that overall, it looks like their motion to dismiss is pretty strong. And in fact, the plaintiffs even admitted that maybe they need to amend their complaint to clean up a few things. So it's not as if the judge is saying the New York Times wins their entire case. I think the judge is looking at this and saying, it looks to me like there's going to be amended complaint coming anyway. from the plaintiff. So why don't we just let that happen?
I see it a little differently, and that is, the court clearly has reviewed the 12b6 motion filed by the New York Times, and after that review, even before they see Baldoni's response, this judge is putting everyone on notice. Hey, there are substantial grounds here. I've done a lot of these cases. I've dealt with a lot of press issues, New York Times and other reporters, and we want to treat this stuff as privileged in most cases. And if you remember, in the moving papers by the New York Times and the moving motion, they pointed out the law that said most cases that are brought like this are dismissed at the 12b6 timing, at the motion to dismiss.
This legal battle traces back to the 2024 film It Ends With Us, where Blake Lively accused Justin Baldoni of inappropriate on-set behavior. Her allegations ignited a media firestorm, prompting Baldoni to sue for defamation, intentional infliction of emotional distress, and what he calls a coordinated smear campaign. While Lively has remained mostly silent, her legal team has fiercely fought back against Baldoni's claims. As tensions rise, this high-stakes courtroom war shows no signs of slowing down.
So Blake Lively, she first went public with allegations against Justin Baldoni on December 20th. That is when she filed a complaint with the California Civil Rights Department. And in documents that were reviewed by the New York Times, she accused Baldoni, his production company Wayfarer Studios, and others of retaliating against her. Lively claimed that she had raised concerns about a hostile work environment during the production of the movie It Ends With Us. This is a romantic drama that's based on the hit novel by Colleen Hoover. According to Lively, Baldoni repeatedly invaded her personal space, entered her makeup trailer uninvited while she was undressing or breastfeeding her newborn. She also claimed that Baldoni's behavior contributed to a toxic atmosphere on set, and that nearly derailed the whole production. Her legal team claimed that Baldoni showed a shocking lack of boundaries, and even went so far as to suggest that Baldoni then orchestrated a smear campaign against her following her speaking up and trying to address the issues on set.
With discovery against the New York Times now paused, Justin Baldoni's legal team faces a major setback. The judge ruled that proceeding with discovery while the motion to dismiss is pending would create unnecessary complications. Additionally, the newspaper is expected to invoke the New York Shield Law, which protects journalists from revealing confidential sources, making Baldoni's legal battle even more challenging.
And keep in mind the reporter's privilege. It limits circumstances in which litigants, people that are litigating, can get the reporter's files, the press's files, through court order discovery. And this is akin to if you have a lawyer and you go in and you hire a lawyer and you tell your lawyer all kinds of bad things that could hurt you, nobody can get your lawyer's files in discovery. If you go to your priest and you tell your priest a bunch of bad things that you've done, nobody can get your priest to testify against you. So this is just one more privilege that's out there. And all the privileges are a little bit different, but this is the reporter's privilege. And we want to limit the ability of litigants to sue and to get the files from a reporter that are going after the person that gave the reporter that information. Because we want the reporters to have the ability to be, as it says here, vigorous, aggressive, and independent.
Meanwhile, speculation about Blake Lively's personal life is adding fuel to the controversy. Online discussions have resurfaced about her relationship timeline with Ryan Reynolds, with some questioning whether their romance began before their previous relationships had ended. Lively and Reynolds insist they were both single when they got together after Green Lantern in 2010, but a since-deleted tweet from journalist Kat Manel suggested otherwise, sparking fresh debates about celebrity, PR tactics, and the truth behind Hollywood love stories.
What Ryan and Blake's narrative is, they both were not in relationships. When they did get together, it was after the filming of Green Lantern, and everything was good. But I think what made everything more complicated was there was a rumor due to a tweet that was sent out by a reporter. So that's kind of the odd thing here.
Smoking gun, if you will. This is what it was. Yeah. Yes, here we have the article that during the allegation of this really all stemmed from a journalist who now claimed it in a deleted tweet. Yes. Now, the tweet has been archived. Here it is from Kat Marnell. Fun fact, Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds hooked up when Ryan Reynolds was still married to ScarJo, and holed up in a NOLA hotel room during the Green Lantern. Us Weekly had discovered this, and their beauty editor would tell us this at events and about how Ryan Reynolds and Blake Lively's team's threats squashed the story. Now, again, this person's reporting, it is hearsay, right? Because she's
Absolutely
clearly
hearsay.
saying,
this is
the beauty editor
speculation.
over at this place is telling me this, da, da, da. So it is multiple steps to confirm this, everybody. So it's not confirmed. But it wouldn't be a surprise. They were clearly had chemistry during that tour. I remember, Kim, all the junkets that people have seen of Ryan and Blake, there is so much seemingly flirtation. I would say even more than what Justin and Blake was having on their videos that everyone seems to think there was a relationship. The chemistry between Ryan and Blake was palpable.
Ryan Reynolds, married to Scarlett Johansson at the time, has never addressed these rumors. Johansson, for her part, has taken the high road, avoiding negative comments about their past marriage. Some speculate that the renewed focus on Reynolds and Lively's relationship timeline is a strategic distraction from the escalating legal battle between Justin Baldoni and the New York Times.
Because as we've been going through this whole drama with Justin Baldoni, we're learning so much about the way that PR works, and things that happen behind the scenes, right? We're seeing all these texts of these PR employees and agents that are all speaking with press outlets directly, trying to make sure there's good stories about their, their client, or blocking potential stories about their client. And it makes me start to wonder, like, could this really be possible? Would this be something? I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if there have been stories of affairs between celebrities that have been blocked in the press because of PR. And I think that's part of why this whole Justin Baldoni story is so fascinating. It's just because people are really getting a behind the scenes look at the reality of PR and what all of that means.
I mean, the other thing that we can't, because you didn't even have this in there, but I'm going there, Kim, because if we really go through it, Blake Lively has had a history of being with her co-stars.
It's true.
That's what's being alleged here between, obviously, as we know, with Penn Badgley, Ryan Reynolds. There was talk about Leonardo DiCaprio.
Beyond the courtroom battle, Justin Baldoni is also facing backlash over an LA Times article that casts his leadership at Wayfarer Studios in a negative light. The piece accuses him of fostering a work culture dominated by toxic positivity, pushing his Baha'i faith too heavily in the workplace, and prioritizing emotionally charged content over professional boundaries. While some former employees defended him as a kind and well-intentioned leader, others admitted that his approach created discomfort, adding another layer of controversy to his already tumultuous situation.
Shampoo company owner Blake Lively hired herself a new crisis PR expert, Nick Shapiro, who used to work in the federal government at the CIA, Deputy Chief of Staff for John Brennan. He's been out of public service now for a decade and started his own crisis PR firm. And now, the Los Angeles Times has just come out with a hit piece on Justin Baldoni. The timing of that is remarkable. I'm going to go through with you all of the allegations in the LA Times article, beat by beat, but spoiler alert, he's too much of a nice guy. Toxic positivity. The villainous Virgo needs to try harder. And not only is it a hit piece against Baldoni, it's also a hit piece against his religion, the Baha'i faith. Some folks who used to work for Baldoni spoke to the LA Times, and one former staffer told them, quote, "It was constant positivity all the time. I would say toxic positivity. I'm always a little dubious of people who advertise themselves as disruptors of the status quo or quote unquote good people. It felt phony."
Critics argue that the media selectively presents information to shape public perception, potentially influencing support for public figures. They suggest that certain reports may be designed to sway reputations, raising concerns about bias and manipulation in news coverage.
I would rather celebrities do good just to make themselves look good than not do good at all. Think about it. And I'm not saying that's what's going on with Justin Baldoni. In fact, I think he is just a good person. Very extra, okay? Very extra.
Public sentiment on the case remains deeply divided. Some see Justin Baldoni as a victim of character assassination, while others argue that Blake Lively's allegations deserve serious consideration. Meanwhile, the New York Times staunchly defends its First Amendment rights, insisting the lawsuit is baseless and should never have been filed in the first place.
But for the most part, the law does protect press, and they argued in the documents we went through when we did members only the other night, they argue that they have privileges, right? They have the privilege of the press, where they can, as long as they report on a story that they're given, their source may be wrong and they don't know that, but they're just reporting this legal document that was given to them. And all they have to do is report on that they don't even have to tell both sides of the story if they don't want to. They're not required to. And the fact that they even decided to allow Baldoni to comment and give him a statement in their letter, that alone was them, doing him a solid. Like, that's them doing their journalistic integrity to try and tell both sides of the story, even though they didn't really, but they didn't have to. And so they have the protection, the privileges of the press. And not only that, but they also have the privileges of opinion, because they can have an opinion, and just because it's an opinion doesn't necessarily mean that people should or would take it as fact, even though when they say it's a smear campaign, we hold them to a higher standard. And we believe that when the New York Times tells us that something is a smear campaign, that we trust them, right? We should trust the media. And the New York Times basically said, like, no, you shouldn't trust us. Like, that was just our opinion that it was a smear campaign. But like, we're protected. Our opinion is sacred. We can give you our opinion, and we don't even have to tell you that it's our opinion, and we don't even have to fact check it if we don't want to. We can fact check it as much as, we basically want to. They basically exposed how the media gets away with their bullshit. And it was jarring.
As the March 2026 trial date nears, tensions are mounting. Will Justin Baldoni triumph in court, or will Blake Lively and the New York Times successfully dismantle his case? One thing is certain. This legal saga is far from over. The real story, behind the headlines, remains unclear. Is Baldoni the target of a calculated smear campaign, or is he guilty of serious misconduct? The final verdict may ultimately hinge on the strength of the evidence yet to be uncovered, making this one of Hollywood's most closely watched legal battles.
Now, is this a smear campaign? Well, I'll tell you what it is. It is a reputable company, relatively, LA Times, not addressing the mischaracterizations by Blake Lively. So they were fair in the he said, she said aspect. They included other jabs at the credibility of Wayfair, the lawsuit, which, by the way, sure, they were sued by a former employee who is black, but Jamie Heath is black. You know what I mean? So I'm not saying they have an issue there, but it's kind of hard to be like, the case settled, there was nothing else to say about it. They claims there was no issue. I don't know. It seems a whole bunch of nothing. Same thing with the cystic fibrosis case. It's like, look, these things didn't lead anywhere. So the glaring thing that's missing here is, like, sure, you say, all right, they talk about Blake Lively having power, which is fair, but what they don't talk about is all of her mischaracterizations and why the audience is on Justin Baldoni's side. They leave all of that out. So not a slam dunk smear piece, but it's actually a pretty smart piece because it kind of leaves it in doubt. And I think at this point, the best thing for Blake Lively is to get back to neutral ground. She's like, I don't even need you to believe me. I just need you to not believe him. And that seems to be what's going on right here. And we'll probably see more articles like this that sort of shift the focus away from Blake Lively and more onto Justin Baldoni, but not in a way that exonerates him, just in a way that casts a lot of doubt.
For now, all eyes are on the judge's next move as this high-stakes case continues to send shockwaves through Hollywood, keeping the entertainment industry on edge.
Oh boy, I don't know. Who knows what comes tomorrow? On Thursday, they're having the court hearing, which is going to be available to the public by call-in. So we will be listening to that. I don't think we're going to live stream it because I know some people are. I'd rather listen to it, and then we'll give our opinions on it and just kind of walk through what happened from our standpoint as lawyers and kind of where it goes from there. I'll tell you, most court hearings are pretty boring, especially initial court hearings. And so a lot of it's just scheduling where they just say, okay, we'll put this out until such and such a date. And somebody says, I've got a procedural issue, Your Honor. And so it's not going to be as exciting as people think it probably will be, but we'll listen to it and we'll give an update on that. And then I think the next stage is what's going to happen with the New York Times. Is Baldoni going to amend his complaint? I think so. Or is he going to file a response to the motion to dismiss? Stay tuned. We'll find out.
As soon as we know something, we will come back on and chat with you all again.
As Hollywood's legal war intensifies, the stakes have never been higher. With careers, reputations, and millions of dollars on the line, this courtroom battle is far from over. Will the truth finally come to light? Or is this just the beginning of an even bigger and more dramatic showdown? The twists and turns in this case continue to shake the entertainment industry, leaving fans and insiders eagerly watching for the next development. What do you think? Is justice being served, or is this all just strategic maneuvering? Share your thoughts in the comments below. That wraps up today's video. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you never miss an update. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.